Do these work in the same way, or could that be another opportunity for you?
It's a different opportunity because we actually work with a company that does offer this type of technology. And then what they do is they do monitor, for example, within the residence, it's a one-on-one. So my device only talks to my transponder. So what they do is they monitor like the cook stove, the oven, the door, so then that way there, if you get up in the middle of the night, it could set off an alarm. If you leave the oven running more than 2 hours, then they know something is up. So they have that type of technology. Ours is more for what we call like a wider, more non-one-way communication. So because we thought, we did try to approach that market, and right away we said, you know what, our technology is too complicated. It'd be great for, like there was a large, and again, because of the economy, but I can't think of, anyway, I'm not going to name the name, but they make jeans and apparels for, young people. They were building a brand new facility in Pennsylvania. They had a walking trail. And they said, we're concerned that people are going to walk out there, something may happen. So we started talking, budget cuts, and then that ended our discussion. So it's really an investment, and it's challenging, especially in today's economy.
Well, one thing that people are usually willing to pay for is safety, especially of their families. So there's got to, anyway, it seems like there's opportunity.
Oh, no, I fully agree. I mean, again, as a parent, I would say, the male population, they can fend, they could work their way out of it, but if for female, it's a little more, it's a little more challenging. It could be challenging, and then so instead of having a bodyguard walking her back to her dorm, I mean, this could even be placed in dorms, so if something happens, just pull, and so.
I, for one, am going to remember Marietta Sensor's telephone number for the next time someone suggests that the solution is to arm every student, faculty, and staff member with a 9mm pistol. This is a much more sane approach, and really appreciated that. I am Jim Kautz. I founded Jubilee Organic Gardens 3 years ago. One caution, I am on the tail end of a cold. And just in case I break into a coughing fit, my daughter Lori will take over. She knows far more about this than I do anyhow, so we have Plan B, just in case. The reason we are here is to collect ideas from you as to how we can better market our products. Our products are geared entirely toward developing a system of sustainable agriculture. It is an unfamiliar concept to many, many farmers, many of our customers, and so gathering ideas, gathering your thoughts and ideas, that's the reason we're here today. First, a very brief history. Grew up on an organic farm. My father was one of the first subscribers to Organic Farming Magazine, now Organic Gardening Magazine, 1943. He was a subscriber to that, so I grew up in that environment, and it's certainly contributed to my passion for organic agriculture. Probably one of the most important events in my life was I founded and managed a rather large child nutrition program in Southeast Ohio. We extended from Steubenville all the way over to Cincinnati, 5,000 meals a day, and the meals were horrible. We relied on USDA reimbursements to buy the food, and it was mostly processed food. And when I retired from the Appalachian Nutrition Network approximately 6 years ago, I committed myself to spend my years in retirement to finding solutions and to create a way for locally grown, healthy, organic food to get into our school child nutrition programs. Quite frankly, about 3 years ago, I had purchased some material called coconut coir for my own garden, paid a small fortune for it through Amazon, but it was absolutely wonderful. And so my wife and I went together, we bought a semi-truckload of it, 22 tons of coconut coir, and we proceeded to sell that material to organic farmers all over Ohio. It's a substitute for peat moss, and peat moss is anything but a sustainable agricultural product. And so that's where we started. All I was going to do was to sell a truckload of coconut coir to all my friends who own organic farms. However, within a month, we were composting, mixing soil, bagging it, selling it to local gardeners. I once gave a speech to the Unitarian Church's garden club and sold $1,300 worth of coconut coir before it was all over. And so we knew we were on to something, and quite frankly, I fell in love with being involved in a for-profit company. I had spent my entire professional life in the nonprofit world, and this was a new experience, and I saw the potential. There's a certain level of credibility that comes when you're involved in having to make a profit in order to survive. So that's how we got started. Rather quickly, we discovered that there is a paradigm shift going on in American agriculture. The paradigm shift is simply we are moving away from assuming that industrial agriculture, chemically based fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides are the only products that produce the kind of yields that allow not only farmers to survive, but also allow us to feed a very hungry world with a growing population. And we were out to prove that there is another way. There are other ways to provide organic products to agriculture that will create the kind of yields that will allow farmers to stay in business. Again, one of the reasons we're here is that that's a lot easier said than done. Farmers are quite dependent on those chemical fertilizers, and we have to be very sensitive to their situation. Most farmers today, even the very large farms, are almost hopelessly in debt, and one bad year, one bad yield, and they're bankrupt. And so this all has to be handled in a very sensitive way and a very responsible way so that farming can, as we know it today, can continue, but without contaminating water and soil and air in the process. There is this paradigm shift that is going on. Discovered it very quickly. Initially, all my friends said, don't set up Jubilee Gardens in Marietta, go to Athens County because they have all the environmentalists over there. But this is my home. And within a matter of weeks discovered that that assumption was incorrect. There are many, many people here in Washington County and, of course, in the surrounding counties as well, who have already gone through that paradigm shift. And so, quite frankly, we had more customers than we had staff to handle. In the meantime, climate change has become a reality and is more and more accepted as a reality. Agriculture as we once knew it, with 90% of the produce in the United States grown in the Southwest, mostly in California, that day is basically over. The drought, climate change, other conditions in the climate have changed that. And so the entire country is looking for other locations where soil can be made healthy and can be created as healthy soil so that agriculture can expand. So developing soil so that farmers can find new ways, more environmentally friendly ways to farm and make a profit, that was the first problem we addressed, and that was easy enough. The second problem, however, is intriguing. It has to do with food waste. The problem of dumping food waste into landfills is increasingly a subject that people are talking about. President Obama in the last couple of weeks highlighted that issue. Quite frankly, it's cheap and easy and simple to load a garbage truck full of every kind of waste, not bother separating it, taking it out to Route 50, dumping it in the landfill, and not care terribly much about the tons of methane that's being reduced or being produced and traveling up into the atmosphere, creating global warming. That day is also over. 5 states have outlawed food waste going into landfills. And quite frankly, one of those states, New York State, with New York City included in that, they outlawed food waste from going into their landfills, and without proper planning and an infrastructure to handle all that food waste not going into landfills, they've decided to ship it to Western Pennsylvania, Ohio, and West Virginia. And so right now, one of our marketing strategies is to lay all the guilt we can on all of the friends we have in New York City, telling them that every pound of food waste in New York City is being dumped in our landfill down here, and won't they please buy our products? Okay, 20% of the garbage going into landfills is food waste. Rotting food waste is one of the largest contributors to methane gas in the United States. And as I indicated, 5 states have already banned food waste from going into landfills. And that's a growing phenomenon in the United States. Here at Marietta College, thanks first of all to Parkhurst Dining, it is a proactive company. It is not sitting around wondering how in the world they're going to solve the food waste problem. And Parkhurst has many, many restaurants and serves many colleges in this area, Western Pennsylvania being the largest concentration of those. And they're looking for solutions. And as I say, they don't just sit around wringing their hands. They were shipping all of the food waste until last March through a company called Futures Organics. And lo and behold, Futures Organics was bought out by a larger company, and Parkhurst was called one day telling them that their food waste would no longer be picked up, and somehow or another they had heard about Jubilee Gardens, called us, and without giving it a whole lot of thought, I said, sure, we'll pick up your food waste. And right now we're picking up somewhere between 4 and 6 tons weekly from Gilman Hall behind the cafeteria here. And to just indicate just how crazy we are, thanks to Fred Smith, we are expanding this to a campus-wide program. And Lori is going to talk about that. I think that's it. Is my 5 minutes up? Have I missed something? Oh, good heavens, yes. Okay, very quickly. We applied for what is called a Class 2 composting license. And all that is, if you've ever composted in your backyard with some bins and you throw your grass clippings and your food waste from the kitchen, not meats and fish, just the organic material, a lot of leaves, mix all that together, keep it at a proper moisture level, turn it regularly, and in about 6 months you'll end up with a relatively small bucket of compost to put in your garden to nurture your plants. That's called aerobic or traditional composting. We're located at 900 Green Street here in Marietta. This is the Head Start School is about 200 feet from our property line. We have lots of residences around us, and the EPA turned us down. I kind of knew they were, and I was anticipating that, and had begun to investigate another method of breaking down food waste and converting it into soil called bokashi, or the more technical name, acidic anaerobic fermentation. It is odorless, it is pest-free. Those are very important qualities, because most of the industrial level compost facilities in Ohio have been shut down because of odor and pests. And so the EPA loves us. We are collecting lots of food waste. A year from now, we're going to be collecting 4 times what we are now collecting, and therefore able to create a lot more soil. But we ferment your food waste. We turn it into pickles, and if you If you come around our facility, I'll be happy to open one of our barrels that's been sitting there with your food waste for a couple or 3 weeks or more, and what you will smell is something akin to dill pickles. We mix that food waste with soil, and it very quickly then breaks down into a very rich soil amendment, full of microbes, full of all the good stuff that makes plants grow. It is not chemically based. It is perfectly safe. You may think, good heavens, and we take everything. We take meat and fish and everything. Everything you throw away on your tray at Gilman Hall, we'll take it. Inside those sealed containers, those barrels, the acidic level rises or drops in a way to a very high acidic level with a pH count of like 3.2. That kills all the pathogens, and then it neutralizes very quickly when we mix that with soil, and with that we can create all organic farms. Why? Well, with traditional composting, it takes 10 tons of waste to make 1 ton of compost. Our method, it's 1 ton in and 1 ton out. That's a lot of compost. And so instead of just serving backyard gardeners, we can now realistically turn entire farms into organic farms with every bit as high yield or higher than chemical fertilizers, pesticides, and herbicides. We think we're on the cusp of a revolution. Is that?
First of all, it's a fantastic idea, and what the challenge we're facing right now is to make it an economically sustainable business, because it's a great idea. It has, I think you can see from the way he's explained it, that this could be something that could revolutionize the way that food waste is processed. There are other technologies that are in development which are all really exciting, anaerobic digestion being one, and also other forms of managing composting better in industrial facilities. But bokashi is relatively unknown in the United States. It is something that's widely used in Asia, Japan, and Korea. So what we'd like to do, this is our vision. We have 2 lines of business. We have food waste collection, and we have soil and other soil products that we'd like to market and sell. I would like to get to the point where our food waste collection side is profitable, and that means working with partners, institutions that have sustainability efforts that they are willing to prioritize, like Parkhurst, like Marietta College. Fred Smith has also been incredibly helpful in this process of developing these programs. It's important that the customers that we work with are not just looking for garbage pickup, because if you compare what we do to just picking up the garbage and taking it to the landfill in Parkersburg, we're not going to compete with that. What we're offering is a kind of a closed-loop program where food waste is processed safely and effectively, turned into soil that grows crops that then is sold in the community and then eventually goes right back around the circle. So that's our vision, and we want to build that one institution at a time. Marietta College has stepped forward as being progressive and visionary, and I'm an alum of Marietta College. I graduated in 1992, so I'm extremely thrilled about that. We have basically one other major customer, and that this account is now in development. We are going to be working at Noble County Correctional, which you may or may not be familiar with, but it's a state prison. The state prison system is unfortunately extremely large in Ohio, and they have a zero waste mandate from the governor, and that basically they recycle absolutely everything. They try to keep costs down, and they use an in-vessel composting system. Several of them do, and many more will be coming online with that. And what that means, it's a big giant machine that costs about $150,000, and you put food waste on one end and compost comes out the other end. It's a large initial investment, and they max out at a certain capacity. So you can't overfeed the food waste into one of those in-vessel systems. They top out at about 500 pounds a day. So we are going to be actually handling the overflow waste at Noble County, and the inmates will be trained to bokashi that material themselves. We will then be taking that material and putting it into a soil farm We recently were, this isn't totally official yet, but there's a coal company that has their headquarters nearby that has agreed to donate 10 acres to us of, it's basically compacted legacy strip mine, reclaimed strip mine land, and we're going to be depositing the bokashi material there and turning that into a soil farm. So between Marietta College and Noble County, we're working toward a sustainable program where the food waste side is funded. Because, for one thing, we don't have any capital. We literally are doing this, pulling ourselves up by our bootstraps, and we got to use some, dirty, messy gardening boots because it's a dirty business, processing food waste. It's not for everybody. Our process is relatively clean, so it's not like you go into a facility and it smells bad. But still, it's not necessarily everybody's first choice for a part-time job. So anyway, we are looking to then build our soil business because there's a limited number of institutions that are going to be able to participate in this in Ohio, in our regional area. Transportation is a big part of what we do. Our business is probably going to be mostly localized, and that doesn't mean it can't expand. We're actually going to be pitching several other prison wardens to try to expand this to other institutions in Ohio, and that will mean setting up localized programs there. But we can't be trucking extremely heavy product back to Marietta or out of Marietta. So our geographic ring, both in collecting food waste and in producing soil products, is limited because of transportation costs. So here's what we're facing. We need to market our soil products, educate farmers and gardeners about the quality of the products that we're producing, about what it does for plant yield. If you do a side-by-side comparison and you use just plant a plant in your backyard, and then if you use our bokashi material in the soil, sometimes you can see a 50% larger increase in both flowering, the health of the plant, the size of the plant. It's very, very effective organic fertilizer. And organic farmers often know this, many organic farmers are familiar with bokashi, but most of everyone else isn't. And as Jim touched on, farmers are a conservative bunch. So what we're looking to do is, how do we market our soil products? How do we educate the people who would be our customers for soil products? And how do we get our products out there locally without having a retail location? So that's where we're at. We don't have $500,000 to hire a firm to launch products for us and develop marketing. We're doing it all ourselves.
Well, first of all, I'd like to say I was really glad that you guys were here presenting because we're thrilled to be partners with you. I know you guys have a lot of passion for this, and I love that Jim comes from that food and nutrition background too, and the sustainability loop. And I know that we were talking about how to, I heard people gasp when they heard the number of the amount coming out of Gilman. So that's another piece that we're working on with Jim, and we're appreciative on that. So I guess my question, because you were asking specifically about marketing, do you guys, identifying target audiences, are you looking to start out with gardeners and that, or are you looking towards larger farms? Are you looking, what is that target market for that?
We produce soil for gardeners that is not made on a soil farm. In other words, it's produced at our facility using coconut coir, the peat moss alternative, and worm castings. One thing I didn't mention is that worms are very, very good at refining the bokashi even faster than nature allows it to break down. So we can produce products that can be bagged and sold to gardeners, which we've done sort of informally in the community. Diane, I think, has some of our soil at her home, and several other people in the community. But we would love to be able to have large contracts. An example, this is not a moneymaker for us, but it is something that's important to us. We're working with the Wilds, which is a conservation area, wild animals that they raise for zoos, if any of you are familiar with it. The land there is basically just solid clay. It's like concrete. It's very difficult to grow anything in. So they have